Grabe ang spicy ng food nila dito. Ah. Whew. Ayan na yan. Kamusta naman kayo dyan mga kameta? Grabe yung sobrang spicy yung food nila. Medyo parang napapaiyak tayo at lakas ng sugar and oil dito. Kaya mahirap yata mag-diet sa Malaysia. No? Masarap yung food nila in fairness. Parang may elements of Middle Eastern food and Indian food among other things. Medyo masarap. So ito guys, habol lang natin some of the discussions that we're hoping to touch on. We'll talk about a little bit of geopolitics ngayon in the minutes that we have together in terms of yung sinasabi ni Trump on Panama, on Canada, on my goodness, on ano pa, Greenland. Just ko kung ano sinasabi ni Donald Trump. Let's talk about that very shortly because sa aking palagay it's very, very dangerous. Even if Trump is just trolling, and worse if he's really serious, wala nang credibility ng America to say, oh, China don't invade Taiwan, or oh, Russia go slowly on Georgia, or stop invading Ukraine. It's gonna be a rule of jungle, and the United States pretension to any kind of a rules-based order leadership na questionable as we speak is gonna be completely disintegrating. But anyway, bago pag-usapan yan dyan guys, ganito napansin ko nung nag-post ako kanina about dito sa 30 million pesos essentially defamation libel case na sinampahan ni Vic Soto. Baka magkamali tayo. Vic Soto. Just be clear guys, Vic Soto. Etong 30 million na sinampahan ni Vic Soto, 32, 37, whatever, na sinampahan kay Daryl, right? It has generated a firestorm of reaction. And obviously, maraming tao dyan na galit kay Daryl dahil sa mga kababalagan ng mga ginawa niya mga pelikula, yung mga Marites, Made in Marites 1, Made in Marites 2. Ay, hindi po revisionist ang tawag dyan. Reconstruction. Parang ano yan, parang cosmetics. Ano yan, ang tawag dyan, distortionist version of history. Kaya Made in Marites ang tawag ko dyan, hindi Made in Malacanang. Kung ano-anong pinagsasabi nila dyan. Two of the most horrible movies I've watched in terms of factual content, in terms of fidelity to actual events, in terms of capturing the complexity of historical realities, and of course in terms of basic respect doon sa legacy ng EDSA at mga tao na nagsakripisyo para sa atin karapatan pang tao at demokrasya. Now, none of it means that EDSA revolution created the perfect system. It didn't, and we can have a long conversation. Again, I've written books, everything about gaano kapalpak yung mga sumunod na leaders. Hindi lang mga Aquinos, but actually even worse yung mga Erap types, Arroyo types, no offense kay Tita, Duterte types, what have you. But you see, this is the problem. Dahil si Daryl ay gumawa ng mga ganyang mga ek-ek na pelikula, it doesn't make him necessarily a credible vessel for getting back and having a potentially revisionist. Kasi iba po yung distortionist sa revisionist. Ang distortionist is talagang sinungaling ka. Iniiba mo yung katotohanan, you manipulate nostalgia, you manipulate propaganda, whatever, to reconstruct the past based on a present political agenda. Revisionism, actually, technically speaking, shouldn't be wrong, because revisionism means minsan may nahanap ka na bagong ebidensya which sheds light on a historical phenomenon in a different way. Now, sa pagkaalam natin, yung case ni Pepsi Paloma is extremely tragic, right? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, she took her life. So something really horrible happened. And, I don't want to talk about, our courts and their credibility and all of that. So some would say it's a cold case, some would say it's an unresolved case whatsoever. So in theory, you can have a revisionist and legitimate approach to understanding or to approaching the Pepsi Paloma case, but it has to be done with due diligence. Meaning, first of all, you have to be fair. You have to take all the sides of all the people involved, including Vic Soto. Sige na, baka Vic Soto rin, baka mapikta sa tatay niya, di ba? Whoever could be adversely affected, dapat kausapin din yung mga legal experts, dapat kausapin yung, alam mo, yung mga documentaries, for instance, about yung assassination ni Ninoy, diba? Hanggang ngayon, under case siya, no? Or even kay Jesse Robredo, like, was that, you know what I'm saying? But even more in the case of Ninoy, right? So hanggang ngayon, may mga documentaries. So you have to do it in a fair and legitimate way. If gusto mong balikan isang cold case, controversial case, tragic case na sa palagay mo, did not meet justice, then you have to approach it accordingly. Ang problema is, you have a very false vessel. Someone who just did a distortionist, marites version of history not long ago is now trying to create a kind of a supposedly revisionist corrective version of the Pepsi Paloma's case, but walang kredibilidad itong tao na to pagdating sa issue na yan. Now, I've made my stance very clear on cyber libel. I am for criminalizing cyber libel, pero kung may ginawa kang kawalang hiyaan, you have to pay damages for that. So if ever lang, siguro, mukhang mayaman naman, mukhang marami naman kinita yung mga kaibigan natin dyan. Sana, kasi kung may 30 million kayo dyan, pakitabi na lang. O may attorney fortune pa kayo. But you know what? Ang dami ko narinig from both the camp of Vic Soto and the camp of Daryl Yap, in a sense, or also in favor of each side. For instance, the argument on the Daryl Yap side would be something along the lines that, well, hindi pa naman lumabas yung pelikula, paano mo masabi na hindi siya nuanced and fair? Yung trailer naman, well, I mean, it's just a trailer, and it's not the holistic picture, etc. So if you wanna imply malice, right, or yung mga grounds for cyber libel is a bit premature, and then it's also impinging on freedom of expression. So you can make arguments along those lines, and I don't think someone like Fortun, a very, alam mo na yung mga type na lawyers na ganun, I don't think he would have taken up this case kung sa tingin niya they don't have a strong case to make, right? In terms of invoking freedom of expression, at the same time also invoking the fact that, well, trailer pa lang yan, wait for the full movie. Baka mamaya meron pa silang excuse na they reach out to Vic Soto's side and walang dissenting response whatsoever. So I don't want to comment on the legalities of this. What I want to say, guys, is this, na sana magkaroon din ng comments from the camp of Pepsi Paloma, people close to her, people who can empathize with her situation, right? People who have been victims of rape, who can directly empathize with it. Women, mga kababaihan, feminist groups, civil society groups. This is not about taking sides between any of the two antagonists here, no? Legal process yan, let's leave it to the legal process. Pero sa akin palagay, we need to hear more from the side of women. We need to hear more from people who have been abused, male or female. We have to talk about the culture of abuse, predatory practices, whether it's in showbiz business or other important industries. So sa akin palagay, let's let the legal process push ahead here. But at the same time, I think we have to have a legitimate and open discussion from a woman perspective especially, but from any victim's perspective, para mas maintindihan natin yung, of course, Pepsi unfortunately cannot say her side because she's no longer with us, but something really tragic happened, something really horrible happened. Why would she, diba? Why would her life end the way it did if really something horrible didn't happen? So I want to hear more from a kind of a woman's perspective, a feminist perspective, from a former victim's perspective. Yun po yung kulang talaga sa conversation ngayon. At sa akin palagay, masyadong limiting if this debate is only about argument ni Fortun versus argument ng kabila ni Vic Soto, etc. I want to hear from more women's perspective, from victims' perspective. Kasi ano yan it's a very controversial part of our history, right? And this is not about casting aspersions on any party in particular, pero alam talaga natin may culture of abuse sa show business, among other things. Yung latest na nga na biktima, diba? Yung ni Mulak, diba? Yung batang Mulak, diba? So, and you can see males could be also victims of sexual abuse and predation. So I think in that sense we have to talk about these things, very serious things. So I need a third perspective, a woman's perspective, a victim's perspective. I think that would be much more appropriate. Now, very quickly, let me also talk about itong Donald Trump case, because I think it's really, really troubling and worrying. As you know, I've Sandro Mulak, yeah, yeah. I've visited Greenland personally, of course, visited Canada, etc. Not yet Panama, but sa akin palagay, at first I thought it's a bad joke, the one about Canada becoming a new state. Kasi baka naman yung Philippines din. I'm just kidding. I think that's a very bad taste joke, if ever. And now it looks like it's not just a bad taste joke, because Donald Trump, when he was asked questions, he didn't rule out economic sanctions. Forget about military interventions, if ever. Now, in the case of Greenland, I know it personally because I was in Kangerlussuaq the other year, and that's an American military base, and we know that historically the U.S. military bases were very crucial, essentially, to things going on in Greenland. Yung only really international airport nila dyan is really an American air base, no? Which has been supporting American military operations all around the world, including Afghanistan, Middle East. Alam ko yan kasi when I was going around the airport, I saw, I was looking at yung mga plaques, etc. So actually, alam ko for quite some time there have been talks about U.S. more, let's say, brazenly and blatantly taking over Greenland. I talked to people from Greenland, and they themselves are also not very happy about the situation in Denmark. As some of you may know, guys, pagdating sa case ng Denmark, we didn't know it. We went to Denmark, and then na-realize na we need a separate visa to get inside Greenland. So muntik na wala yung chance namin to go to Greenland. So, and then later on, we were told by Denmark na may dynamics naman sila with Greenland. So they hope to get us the visa on time. So anyway, alam ko yung complications na yan. I talked to people in Greenland. I talked to people in Denmark. Shout out also dun sa Philippine Embassy sa Denmark for helping us to get the visa in time to go to an event natin sa Greenland the other year. No, I know about that. But the idea of the president of the United States so openly and brazenly talking about taking over Greenland, just as Denmark is expressing its discontent by raising its defense spending and saying, what the heck, diba? It's a NATO member, etc. Nag-Viking berserk mode na. That's crazy. That's a very, very dangerous precedent. Not to mention also in the case of Panama, in the case of Panama, obviously, I know there's the China angle. The China would end up operating, parts of the Panama Canal, and we know that China has been strategically investing in a lot of port facilities, including in Athens, right, Piraeus, among other things. But the idea of U.S. Coming out and openly saying, "My goodness, I'm just going to take over this area," that's very scary. That's very scary. And then the Canada one is just completely bonkers. It's completely bonkers. Canada is a whole country on its own. It's a G7 member. It's one of the biggest economies in the world. It's a country that defines itself as not being American. My joke is they're like the nice Americans, right? The nice cousin of Americans. So, insane yun. Because, at nakakatakot yan kung Pilipino ka, because, anong kredibilidad ng Amerika na sasabihin sa China, wag mong buliin ng Pilipinas, wag mong sugurin ng Taiwan, kung nga may Amerika, ganyan-ganyan lang. They want to even rename the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of Americana. Right? Now, of course, nagtutroll back din yung women leaders ng yung mga Mexico and mga other things. But guys, this could get serious. And honestly, I really don't know where on earth did Trump get these ideas. There's absolutely no evidence historically that Trump has written something or advocated for those things. It looks like some of his advisors just whispered something into his ears, whatever. Nakakatakot talaga yung ganitong situation because you're opening up a Pandora's box. As we speak, the United States is being criticized right and left for its unconditional support to the massive bombing of Gaza, which some legal experts would say is genocide. ICJ is investigating it. ICC already issued warrants of arrest against Israeli leaders. U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, Iraq. I mean, all of these things have been undermining the international rules-based order. The U.S. refusal to be part of ICJ, ICC, whatever international bodies. The U.S. Senate refusal to ratify the UNCLOS. So ang daming concerns already with American exceptionalism, i.e. imperialism, i.e. unilateralism. But this is the next level. So alam ko maraming mga Trumpers na followers natin na tuwan-tuwa kay Trump. But I hope you geniuses understand that if you're China and Russia today, you would love Trump to be like that. To slap around allies and friends and neighbors and say, oh, we're the big boys, we take over. And that's how things work. It's the rule of the jungle. Well, guess what? Russia loves that. Because Putin says absolutely it's the rule of the jungle, and I'm the former heartland of the Soviet Union, and I'm the Russian Empire, and I'm gonna take over and take back my Georgia, my I don't know, my Montenegro, my Ukraine, whatever. And if you're China, their leaders fervently believe Taiwan is part of their territory. So who are you to tell us not to do what we want to do? So I hope people realize my chain effect yan. So I'm not saying this will happen. It's very possible that tomorrow or in 1 week, iba yun ang isip ni Trump because iba yung pinakinggan naman niya yung ibang tao, whatever. But this is dangerous rhetoric, and we have to call that out because it makes it harder for US allies like us. That means walang respeto ng US sa US allies niya, wala siyang respeto sa rules-based order, napaka out of nowhere yung ideas niya. Next thing you know, you get what I'm saying? I mean, so I'm just alarmed at how people are so nonchalant about these things and they just take it as a joke. Because even if it's a joke, and probably it's not, probably the case of Canada, Panama and Greenland is actually probably not a joke. Canada, maybe malabo. But if US goes and imposes sanctions on Panama, flexes its muscle, military muscle in Greenland, I mean, my goodness. Tensions with Denmark, tensions with the Latin American nations, because Panama is not going to be alone. UNASUR, Mercosur, all of those countries are going to try to work with them. So they're going to try to back up Panama and talk about gringo imperialism, whatever. So when we look at all of these factors, guys, I'm saying this doesn't set a good precedence. And this is what I'm saying. You have to elect responsible leaders, because if you elect people who are into trolling, into art of the deal, performative, blah, blah, blahing, into just, you know what I'm saying? Just pushing the envelope, it's very, very dangerous. And for us as a US ally, trying to convince Malaysia, Singapore, all of these countries to be more supportive, to push back against China, all they say is like, oh, wait, you're a US ally? Look at your own ally. What are they doing to their own allies? My goodness, also you want us to stand with US against China? Forget about it. Puti pa nga ang China, kahit bully sila, they're giving us investments, trade, whatever. What is Trump gonna offer? Is he gonna offer a free trade agreement? Is he gonna offer investments? What is he gonna offer? What does he have to match against China aside from sanctions and big talk and all of that? So what I'm saying is that we have to watch very carefully in the coming days and weeks. How is this drama over Panama, Mexico, or even Canada to a certain degree going to develop? Because I think it has huge implication for the rules-based international order, and it could be very dangerous because it could give the right signal, or wrong signal rather, to the Chinese and Russians, who also have their own imperialistic visions and idea that each superpower has to have its spheres of influence. We are not superpower, we're not a big country, but we don't want to be just part of anyone's sphere of influence. And the rule of jungle is not good for us, because the rule of jungle should not be the situation for the international community, and especially for smaller countries like us. On that note, thank you very much. God bless, and talk to you soon. Please continue to support us. Tuloy-tuloy natin ito. Salamat po. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.